it's time to get to our main topic today, which we've called Comically Changing, because the world of comic books are continually evolving, continually changing, and we want to talk about the changes that are coming, like DC wiping the slate clean, Marvel saying, "Oops, Secret Wars is it. We're killing off all these things, starting over." You know, comic books are constantly doing that, constantly.
Yes.
And they're changing characters, like Thor's now a female and things like that. So
well, Thor is a female. It's kind of weird because male Thor is still around.
Yeah, we want to talk about these changes they're making, what we think they should be doing, and how this all ties into the cinemaverse, as they call it now, because I greatly enjoy the cinemaverse. It's simplified. It's not 800 different Thor comics every month, because I think as a person who wants to get into comics, it's probably really confusing when you go to a store and you see Amazing Spider-Man, Spectacular Spider-Man, Peter Parker Spider-Man, Spider-Man, The Adventures of Spider-Man, Spider-Man Jr., Spider-Ham. You don't know where to start.
The Web of Spider, yeah.
Yeah, the Web of Spider. Comic books have gotten really complicated, and they're kind of forced to the point where they got to reboot. What do you think about that?
I actually used to work in the comic book industry for probably about a total of 7 years. I've seen it happen, time and time again, and I think it's when they reach the end of their creativity. They're like, well, how can we change this and make it something that people will believe? Well, let's just backpedal or throw it into another universe, or grab somebody else and say, okay, well, they died. Well, what happens after they died? And just kind of throw a different spin on it, because what they're doing is really milking out a superhero who's existed for how many years now?
50 plus.
Yeah. They got to keep reinventing them somehow and make it plausible, so they throw in all that just randomness.
Also, you'll have writers who don't like each other, writers who change. I mean, J. Michael Straczynski has written for Superman, Batman. He's written for Spider-Man. He's written for several other comics. He's written for actually the Twilight Zone. He rebrought the Twilight Zone back as a comic book. And so, I mean, it's when you get a new writer, it's like J. Michael Straczynski's writing versus like Mark Millar's writing is totally different. I mean, you're going to have with a very different hero, even though they're the same hero.
So I know that DC said recently, because they just did the New 52, didn't they?
Correct.
I thought the New 52 went over really well.
Year 3 or 4.
Yeah, they just did New 52, and they're already going to go back and reboot the entire thing.
Yes.
Why?
Because it's not selling. Okay.
If your comics aren't selling, something tells me it's not the fact they need to be rebooted.
Okay.
It probably is the fact that, hey, look what this other company's doing.
Okay, so there are 3 reasons reboots happen.
Okay, what's reason number 1?
Reason number 1 is the comic is not selling, but the brand is still popular. As an example, DC, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, the Justice League, all their movies.
Aquaman.
Somewhat Aquaman.
Hey, totally forgot about Aquaman.
Game of Thrones Aquaman looks kind of nifty. So they reboot it so they can actually they'll reboot it. That way it's like a new take, because number ones always sell the most. A character dies, a character gets introduced, a character dies, or number 1. Those are the 3 things that sell a comic.
Well, like this week, Donatello died. It hit the internet. You can't find the comic anywhere.
No, you can't. So the second reason another thing happens is because a movie happened. So as an example, when Spider-Man 3 came out, the movie, they introduced the black suit. Coincidentally, Aunt May in the comic book was having an issue, so Peter Parker was feeling down, so they brought the black suit back. Not as a symbiote, but he's just wearing a black suit. Well, why is Peter Parker wearing a Spider-Man? Why is Peter Spider-Man wearing a black suit? Because in the movie, it's selling a comic.
But that's not really a reboot or a redo. That's just we ran out of ideas. Let's bring the black suit back.
Well, except for the Secret
awesome.
Wars. This is where the Secret Wars come in. The Secret Wars is happening again because Marvel Cinematic Universe is making them more money than they know what to do with. That's why when the new Cinematic Universe, when the reboot happens with Secret Wars, they're going to tone down the publication of the Fantastic Four. They're toning down the publication of the X-Men. What they're increasing is they're going to give the Inhumans 2 comics. They're bringing Miles from the Ultimates universe into the regular universe. The reason is because Marvel doesn't own Spider-Man. They don't own Peter Parker's Spider-Man. So they're going to introduce this Miles Spider-Man, and they're going to emphasize on Miles Spider-Man. They're going to cut down the Fantastic Four because Fox owns Fantastic Four, but they own the Inhumans, so they'll publish the Inhumans even more.
Okay, what's reason number 3?
The reason number 3 is because it's gone on too long. So Batman, Superman, both, and The Flash have all celebrated 75 years of anniversary because you want to get new readers. And if you have, let's say, like 20 years of continuity, that is a huge, thick wall that you have to deal with to get new readers. Like, hey, do you remember what happened in 1958 when this comic book happened? No.
They've already rebooted multiple times in that 50 years.
Right, and each time they reboot it, they always go back to the origin, but every time they move the origin, somehow, like, they want to use the Smallville's origin because Smallville origin takes place now or took place in the 90s. So they're like, oh, you just fast forward 20 years. Guess what? Now it's happening now, but everyone in the 90s. So at least it's a little bit more relatable versus having him be born during the 1930s.
And plus, like, there's only so many superpowers you can give somebody that we
Yeah,
can
they
at least
keep
think up
inventing
right
ones for
now.
him.
Because,
Yeah.
like, think about, like, if the Flash, okay, well, he runs really fast. Well, what if we killed off the Flash, and then we brought in somebody else who just happens to be really quick? Well, we'd have to resell that brand, reinvest people into that character. But if we reinvent them, it's a little different.
There's things like that work, but if they took a soap opera approach and let people live and die and pass on their powers like the Miles Morales thing, or, you know,
like
evolve
they just
things,
did with
everything
Captain
that
America.
everything that has a beginning should have an end. You shouldn't read the same character that requires a reboot for 75 years. When I rewatched Dark Knight Returns, I was like, you know what, I'm okay with Bruce Wayne passing on, because when I first watched him, I was, you can't do Batman without Bruce Wayne, but now I'm thinking, let someone else step into Batman like they did with Azrael when Nightfall. To keep it evolving that way so you have an excuse to tell different characters, different points of view, and let the thing evolve. Because I think in the new Batman and the DC is a robot suit. He's wearing an exosuit that looks straight out of Appleseed. I'm not even lying.
Well, the new Batman is they're tried. Everyone always says that how like Frank Miller was the reason everyone loves Batman, and I disagree with that. You know why everyone loves Batman? Batman the Animated Series.
Yeah.
Everyone loves Batman the Animated Series. Everyone loves Batman the Animated Series so much they had to put Harley Quinn into the series. Mm-hmm. So I think what it is that with anything right now, DC and Marvel in particular, what they're trying to do is get that movie money into their grasp. Because right now, it used to be like with Batman, like the original Batman movie back in 1986. The Spider-Man movie, some of the other ones, the Superman movie back in 79, 78, those movies sold comics because the comic book fans, people went and saw the movie and then they wanted to read the comic. But now, this day and age, the movies don't sell comics anymore. Movies sell movies.
But here's why. Because one day, people don't read, first of all. But secondly, imagine you just watched Iron Man 3.
Yes.
And you go pick up an Iron Man comic and see the Mandarin isn't some drunk actor pretending to be an idiot.
Right.
What do you think? Well, I mean, what would you think? Would you think, what's going on here? Why am I going to continue to read this when this isn't the Mandarin I know and love, or this isn't the Iron Man I know and love? You know, when they watch the movies, you can't exactly go back to comics because so much changes from movies to comics because there's only so much you can do. And they have to simplify things to tell it in a movie.
That's true, but then what do you think they're doing with the Secret Wars? Have you seen the artwork for what Tony Stark is going to look after the reboot?
I get that.
He looks like Robert Downey Jr.
They're doing that now, but imagine back then. You watch the Batman Returns and you pick a comic book. Wait, that's not the Penguin. That's not Catwoman. So there was that disconnect, and I don't know why. I mean, I'm glad now that they're trying to merge the two.
Yeah.
But is it too little, too late for the comic book industry?
What's too little, too late for the comic book industry actually has nothing to do with either. What it has to do with is the fact that nobody wants to go to a comic book store. Comic book stores, like let's take Dragon. Everyone's like, there's a comic book store, there's Dragon's Lair, there's 10th Planet, there's blah blah blah, whatever, whichever which ones. Even in your local areas, like Big Apple in New York, whatever. If you look at those stores, they're not just comic book stores. Dragon's Lair is an example. This huge store, this big. This is their comic book section. This is their gaming and everything else section.
Games take up more space.
And actually, comic conventions do the exact same thing because, you know, it's blah, blah, Comic Con, wherever. And if you actually go to the dealer's room or even look at the panel list, how much is actually like a comic book guest? Like, sure, Stan Lee's going to be at every single one, but you know how much is
I love
actually?
that you brought that up.
Yeah.
Because they have the artist alley where the artists are, and none of the artists or comic book people are actually there. It's all film and TV. You're right. Wizard World is notorious for that.
Yeah, because there's actually a documentary that I watched on the dying breed of an actual comic convention. And they followed this guy who did nothing but sell comics for so long. He actually had a vault installed into his store for the extremely rare ones. And he barely broke even now whenever he'd go to a comic convention. And he was hoping to sell this really rare one. That's really hard to say. And then he just didn't do it. And he actually lost money on a convention because of it. It's really interesting. I wish I could remember the title of it. But it shouldn't be too hard to find if you just do a Google search.
But, yeah, I mean, we had the comic book boom and bust of the 90s. I mean, that's where we had a lot of the really bad, some of the stories. As I said, I got into comic books at the worst era ever. I got in the 90s. And the 80s were great, and then the 90s were horrible. But if you take the comic book convention, it's like we've been to comic book. We went to the one in San Antonio. You and I did. And how much of that was comic books? How much of that was indie comics? and how much of that was Doctor Who, Walking Dead?
It was mostly TV video stuff. I remember.
It was TV
pop
video
culture.
stuff. There, like even people promoting a movie. There was San Antonio one. There was a guy promoting a movie. He got Malcolm McDowell to play an insane doctor in an insane asylum. I'm like, that was bigger news to me than we got like this one. You know, we can talk to someone comic book because this guy got Malcolm McDowell. And that was just really cool.
But that's because, you know, being on TV, we're more geared towards TV film. If we were in a comic book store like you worked in, you'd want to live and breathe
No,
comics.
actually, it wasn't a comic book store. I was actually on the editing side, the graphical side.
Oh.
I was actually making comics.
Yes.
So
and big
why'd
comics.
you stop?
Long story. It mainly devolves down to the company itself. It's like if I try to do something I love for work, you know, sometimes it doesn't become something you enjoy anymore. It became more work than fun. And I stopped liking comics. So I'm like, you know what? I'm losing my love of something, so I'm out. So.
Yeah, well, hopefully you don't ever lose your love for being on TV because it's fun.
No, I doubt that.
There's just also a lot more to it. I mean, Marvel and DC are one example of companies, but I think right now the companies that are doing the best comics is like IDW, Dark Horse, and
Yeah, they don't feel the need to reboot because they don't have the history.
but it's not
But
even that.
the point is Marvel and DC keep rebooting. You think they would have learned something by now. We don't need 20 Spider-Man titles a month.
Well,
No.
actually, if that was true, I mean, that's how business works. If it doesn't work, they don't make money, they stop it. But clearly it's doing something for them, otherwise they would have stopped a long time ago.
Although I know, didn't DC get rid of most of their multiple titles a month and stream it down to like 2 or 3 when they did the New 52?
If it's with Batman, there are 4 Batman, 3 Batman comics. With Superman, there's 2, 3 now technically if you count Wonder Woman and Superman as a Superman comic. Technically, it's more of them as a couple. What it more is DC picking and choosing the major titles for their major readers. So Superman, Batman, Justice League. If you look at the Justice League, they put Cyborg in the Justice League. Yes, Cyborg was in the Justice League before, but why is he in it now? Oh, because he's popular on Teen Titans.
Well, he's also just a really
and
well-done
Teen Titans,
character.
They changed Teen Titans. They changed the entire cast to the point of the only 2 people, 3 or 4 people that were in it that even remotely looked like the Teen Titans was Red Robin, not Robin, Red Robin.
They make
Yeah.
great
Young.
burgers.
Yes,
Same thought.
Red Robin, Superboy, who now uses psychic powers to whatever,
What?
and Diana, aka the young Wonder Woman.
Well, it's like the Avengers. The heroes are going to come in and out. A group dynamic title will always have people that come in and out.
Right.
And I like the fact, like you said, that they are bringing in the movie universe to kind of tie it all in, so maybe they'll kind of help do that. But I disagree with the need of multiple titles because look what they did with the Ultimates. They kept it simple, and it was awesome.
Right. Except after a
Except
while,
what? There was nothing wrong with the
except
Ultimates.
the
It
only,
was
the only
awesome.
problem was the problem with the Ultimates universe was that when they were killing off characters, they got a little too willy-nilly with some of the writers because some of the writers were back in the old days.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, we'll just kill off Charles Xavier and have his neck broken.
Haven't they seen Days of Future Past? He mysteriously just comes back to life.
Except the Ultimates universe, they've only brought back one hero ever, and that was a clone technically.
And that's good. That's the way comics should go. You should
Yes.
let things have a beginning and have an end and keep it going forward so that you're not continually having to tell the same story over again, the same origin story over and over again. I dread what they're going to do. Are they going to reboot Spider-Man, go back to high school? I hope to God not. We've spent 2 movies in the last 10 years that have already done that. Let's keep moving.
But it's the sad thing is, like Kim said, it's a business.
Yeah.
So which Spider-Man sells most? High school, college, married. The first 2. That's why
Well, 'cause
every
married life
cartoon,
just isn't
every
fun.
show.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
they
but
want to
nobody-
escape from life.
Yeah,
That's why
right.
a comic exists.
Right. So nobody wants married Peter Parker. Why do you think at the end of one of the most major runs of comics, Marvel said, we're going to have it where Peter Parker never got married? And that yet angered everyone, they stuck to their guns.
No, because that's when they create the alternate universes like Earth 52, Earth 53, Earth 6. Do you really need to alternate universe timelines?
Apparently they do.
Yeah,
It used to be called What If. They were one-shots. That's how we got Spider-Ham.
Yes, I love Spider-Man. But that's also where we got like Spider-Gwen. Like a great example right now of alternative universes done right is Spider-Gwen. It's Marvel's new title. It's Gwen. What if Gwen Stacy would have gotten bit by the spider instead of Peter Parker? And Peter Parker ends up becoming the Lizard. There's a lot to it. Read the backstory on that one. It's really cool.
It's a really cool comic. I'm not
It
gonna
is,
lie.
but they just turned it. They did a one shot with her in the webs in a comic where they said, "Hey, look, Spider-Gwen's still alive." And they did this one thing, and it sold like gangbusters. And now she's got her own comic. Daredevil's a bad guy who's an enforcer for Kingpin. He kills the Vulture after she beats him up. She nearly dies.
I think comic book fans like that bit of escapism, but I think the problem is we always go back to the staples that we know and love because we've been force-fed the same thing for 75, 50 years. But it's this, and this. I want to see it evolve where it, allows Miles Morales to come to be Spider-Man, or Steve Rogers finally dies and new Captain America steps in, or they change, the evolving groups of people. But I don't know anything about Guardians of the Galaxy, but I love the movie, and I hear in the comic book, it's always different. I'm like, I want to see the same people, but that's my cinema mentality. I don't have the comic book mentality. And I think if the comic books were to stick to their guns and just keep things simple, they'd be easy. And I'd probably do them more. That's why I like the independent comics like IDW, stuff like that. They're so much better.
Well, IDW, they deal with licensed titles. They've got Ghostbusters, they have G.I.
Mars
Joe.
Attacks takes on
They
everything.
actually have Doctor Who as well. I used to work on those.
Yeah.
You were just multi-talented. I'm finding out all these things on TV.
I'm like an onion, just keep peeling back layers.
Onions, yes.
And except I don't make you cry, hopefully.
Not yet, at least.
Not yet. Time.
But if you think about it, it's one of the reasons why I think Doctor Who works so well. I mean, not going on a Doctor Who rant or anything. But they just same character but different actors, and that's why the whole who's your favorite Doctor is a question.
But that's specifically designed to be that way. They'd have to find a way to. I mean, I don't think there's any way to pass off Spider-Man's powers unless he throws up on someone or bites them, because he is a radioactive spider. If he bit someone, he could pass on his power like a werewolf.
Right, or if he got married and had kids, and then the kids.
Oh, we're not going into the spider baby.
No,
I read that one.
But what if? But his example, Captain America. He's already given the title off. Steve Rogers already handed it off. It's gone to the Falcon. He uses the shield. He's not as effective with it. But why don't you just treat the heroes as a title instead of a person?
I think
that totally would work.
So you wouldn't need a million reboots.
But here's the problem.
There's always a problem with you.
The problem with, as a company would see it, is Steve Rogers, Captain America, is a brand to them, and it would make money for them.
They're already evolving it, and trust me, I don't think they're hurting for money. The cinemaverse is exploding. Their TV verse is exploding, and at least those two tie together. Whereas DC's like, no, what you see on TV isn't going to tie into the movies. I'm sorry, they don't play well together.
And
DC's jacked up.
And plus, it's like having to resell somebody on a new character. Like, what if I absolutely love Peter Parker and then you kill him off and give it to somebody else? I'm like, but where's my Peter Parker? I loved him.
But then you would move on.
Well, you might lose readers for it.
But you'd also get new readers.
Potentially. It's a risk they'd have to take.
And that's a risk, particularly with the comic book industry. The comic book industry in the 80s and 90s was selling millions of issues per title. Now they're getting millions of issues as a company. They're not getting the numbers they used to.
Because media's changed. People are they counting the online sales? Or are they counting the people who pirate it?
I don't know. I don't know if they count the online
the
sales,
pirates
but
at all. It just seems like standard business practice.
Yeah.
I didn't get money. I'm not going to count that one.
But it would be a good statistic. How many people are pirating it? That's really how you would gauge.
Yeah, especially if it's in your company.
I heard so Fallout Boy when they sold 138,000 copies the first day. I was like, that's like all of South Austin.
Yeah.
I remember when that used to be major numbers. Are they counting digital sales for things like this?
They should. They should segment them. I mean, I actually used to work with some of the numbers because I was actually in comic book, literal printed comic books, and then my last one was digital. So iPhone, Android, tablets, things like that. And I know that they count those sales because they would actually ask us how many of this title sold, how many of that title sold. So they are keeping track.
Well, and we'll see what happens with the reboots with DC and Marvel. Hopefully they kind of simplify things and we don't have to do it again in another 2 years and have this discussion again in another 2 years. So yeah, Avengers Age of Ultron.
I don't think anyone's going to die.
Well, they're saying someone will die. I wouldn't be surprised if it was somebody that nobody cared about. But they're bringing in Spider-Man and they're going to try to bring in more of the Falcon. Someone's going to have to go. I mean, it's too much screen time for so many people.
Well, Falcon's not going to be in this movie. Neither is Spider-Man. Now, there's rumors that he may make a shadow appearance, he's just going to pop up in the back.
Well, I know, but as they go forward into Infinity War, they're talking about bringing Guardians of the Galaxy into that one, too. It's like, well, how many people can you put on a screen at once?
Now, technically, how they're getting around the Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver being in the movie is they're actually calling them Inhumans, because that's the rights they own to that one.
See, I wish Fox would have played nice, because the Quicksilver they had in Days of Future Past was fantastic. He was amazing.
Except there's one problem. That Quicksilver would have been in the 80s, and this is now, so he'd be in his 40s.
It's called makeup. They do have makeup
Botox.
artists. Botox, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
Botox. We're dealing with a superhero that's probably older than that's technically older than Tony Stark.
Now, I'm also thinking what should be just completely dreaming, but the person they kill off would be the Hulk because they send him to space. If they end it with sending him to space, I will die because you know what comes.
Yeah, he just gets to go to Planet Hulk.
And that leads to World War Hulk.
They've already announced Civil War. They've already announced several movies. But the one thing they haven't said is there's going to be another Hulk movie.
They won't. I
They
mean, he
won't.
did a fantastic job as the Hulk, and why wouldn't they? Because they have something up their sleeve.
I think Hulk is much like Hawkeye, that he makes a good paired with somebody else, but as a standalone movie, I don't see it because it's not as entertaining. And two movies.
What's
have
not
proven-
entertainment about watching some giant green thing go crazy and smash stuff?
Well, two movies have proven so far that doesn't
One
work.
was bad,
The
two was
walls,
good.
Yeah.
Two was good. Yes.
But think about it. If he goes to a planet full of other things that can smash back, why not? That's just an
Because-
extra smashing movie.
And this way, he's not in Infinity War, and that's why they have to do it in 2 when so many things happen. He comes back for Avengers 5, World War Hulk. Just give it to me. I will be totally content if you do a World War Hulk movie because that was one of my favorite storylines ever.
Yeah, I just want to see She-Hulk. It's just personal
That
favorite.
would be really nice.
I would love to see that.
Would she still be an attorney?
I would hope so. That's the one that I like. So
It's either her or Betsy Ross is the Red She-Hulk.
Well, see, that's the reason why I'm thinking about it because if you look at the products, there's Savage Hulk, the Gray Hulk.
Yeah.
Why would they introduce that unless something bad's going to happen?
Sure.
Just saying. So, thanks for watching the show today. We've had an
Big comic
amazing,
book
fun
out.
time. I hope you guys have enjoyed everything from the beginning to end. We've had a great just time talking and laughing. We've laughed more this show than we've ever laughed on a show before.
exactly.
The strange things that come out of our mouth.
Beauty of live TV.
Yeah, so don't forget, next week we're doing the South by Southwest Gaming Show,
Yes.
which will be here, and you can watch that live. After that, you can watch the entire shebang of 3.5 hours of South by Southwest interviews on Easter weekend. And we have all sorts of fun things coming up in April. More of us, new segments. We keep going forward. I do want to talk. May 23rd is our 8-bit gaming salute because I'm redneck today and I can't talk. 8-bit gaming salute. We're doing 24-hour game-a-thon in this studio with all sorts of fun things. So that's going to be quite crazy.
And we're planning food stuff. And if you
We're
want to
planning food stuff. Oh, I hope so.
Food
We'll be in
and-
here
food and
24
stuff.
hours.
Yes.
It's going to be video games, board games, LARPing, pen and paper, video game bands. We're going to rock it out for a good cause. If you don't know what it is, you can head to fanboytv.com. There's a link to the 8-bit salute so you can find everything that we'll be doing in our growing schedule of epic fun things. Austin Toy Museum's doing a massive retro gaming thing with us for that. And I've got a Star Wars thing coming up that's going to be hilarious. And hopefully the premiere of a video game that we love on this show. So we'll see what happens.
Also, I've been trying to plan some stuff for us in the future. I am in charge of trying to get some guests on here, and it's going to be kind of interesting. I may have set my bar a little too high, but we'll see what happens.
There's no, I mean, what's the worst that can happen? They
They'll
can
say
say
no.
no.
Yeah.
So, yes, we have all sorts of fun things coming for you guys. Any last things you want to say before we go?
Don't forget, we're doing Twitch. I'm Pocky_FTPV.
FTPV, what does the P stand for?
FTV_FTV.
FPTV, Fan Princess TV.
You're cheating on us. That's what it is.
You are cheating on us with another group? I will
Yes, it's
stab
princess with princesses.
And Princess TV.
you. They have ponies, that's why he goes over
Yes.
there.
I think I might have to cheat too. They've
Oh,
got
God
ponies.
dang it.
And they have ever high stuff and
You mean
Monster
Ever After High?
Yes, that would be ever.
I like Monster High.
So that's her thing. Monster is hers. But yeah, check us. I'm there. I air on Wednesdays, sometimes some other days, but mostly on Wednesdays.
And I'm pretty random on Twitch. My Xbox tag is Pandoramonium. Last O is a 0. And my Twitch is the same thing, but it's actual O's. It wasn't taken. So you can find me that way.
Yeah, so we're working on an event calendar on our site so you can see when everything's going to happen and all the upcoming shows and what we're going to do. We have more Twitch shows. We have more actual productions and we have Chaos Play we're trying to work on. We're going to bring back Game Storming as a whole show. Adventures in LARPing's already developing its own show.
I'm going to be doing a show about video games. Because,
Surprise, that's all you ever do is video games.
well, I do. Well, no one else does video games.
I'm doing a show about socks today.
I did that once. No one watched it.
Plus, if you liked all our comic book talk, we did just start a brand new podcast called Long Box Literature. It is really entertaining if you go listen to it. They dissect story arcs and art, and the first one where they talked about the ugly art in the corner, like someone got real lazy, it was hilarious.
Check it out.
All right, so we're out. We'll see you guys next week for South by Southwest Gaming Expo. Say goodbye, everybody.
Bye,
everybody.
everybody.
You guys are lame. Seriously. This is what I have to deal with. Seriously. Bye.